this is the new way of touch, or different way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Water can be very violent, right? Most of us, when we grab something, it does not take much to make the water react. You really see it in a water bottle and all of this. I'm going to do it first, and I'm going to pass this around so you guys can see it. So if I'm walking down, this is how violent water can be. And this is what I talk about a lot. If a child goes to lift their head, do you see the momentum in just that lift? But if I rotate, do you see the difference? See how the equilibrium? So if I so even this, I can shake it up and do all that, go right into a rotation, it just calms right down. But to look at that through, this is the same thing. So now, again, if I go back and forth, or I'm too quick with my momentum, but how I want you to start thinking about touch is notice how I'm moving the bowl around the water. See the difference? Versus trying to keep the water steady. So if you look at it that way and just play, you can even get quite fast then. I don't even have to look at it, but see, I know the water's maintaining its horizon. But if I go, oh Holly, you see it ready, it'll just, it reacts to the way you're reacting. And that's where, so when you're picking up a baby's head and you're just going, hi sweetheart, you know what I mean? It's like you're looking at, see how I counter? Counter. And what's really interesting, and I still haven't found the law of this, and I don't know if this will work because there's a kind of a hole in it. Let's see. So now, so if I go this way, if I go slow enough, see how it goes against gravity? So again, if I put the ball down here, let's say, and I just go slowly, do you see how it starts finding center? So I really believe the way the bones are in the body, that if you move with this, again, with this intent, that's why a baby always goes and finds itself upright. So do you see how that ball will naturally find the center? But if I go too fast, you know what I mean? It's not going to do it with the same. But if I go slowly, it'll actually come away from the edge. Maybe this guy's not going to cooperate. But you see how it just, again, it's moving away from the edge. It's not going over. So just because I have gravity doesn't mean I necessarily have gravity. And this is the concept that I think about with the eyeball. So this is an eye orbit with the eye in it. When I'm moving the heads around too, that's where I want to see the eyes to go very nicely, where I can float that head. Again, if that child's got a worried soul or whatever, and all of a sudden, or you know, the optic nerve starts to contract through here, this is where you're going to see, now the ball's going to be, and everything I do is going to be different around where the eyeball is. So let's say if a child only has upper quadrant vision, you know what I mean, already, see? It's just, see now it's performing again. It's coming right back to center, even though I just try to push it around. For those of you, if it's harder to see, I have all these little trinkets to play with. Same thing, just does not take much to making this violent. Second I go into rotation, it just calms right down. But I want you to play with all of these, especially even the plate here. What's interesting about the plate, now the plate's not flat, so the way that the movement even spins around. So to me, what I look at there, it's like having the heart in the center and the lungs. You're dealing with different tissues, diaphragm and all of that. So I don't want to move in such a way, see, that violence almost crosses through or goes even around too fast. So when I'm moving a baby in their feet and all of that, I'm always looking to see, can I make it flow, like that eye function, that slow-mo that we saw. And what's really interesting is my wine glass. So now, if I'm here at the stem, you can really see that counterbalance of the stem. So again, see how I'm moving the glass around the water, but look at the extremities of counterbalance. Now this to me is more CP. So now if I go away from that core, it is that much harder to balance. I literally see how I have to go. This was I was talking about holding the head. You see the counterbalance that I need to do to keep that vestibular stable. So with CP, you might see me work all the way out here. Do you know what I mean? And where I'm working all the way out, depending on where they're putting their arms. Or I have to work at the pelvis so I can show their vestibular, what it's like to, quote, balance in space. Now again, this is a baby stuff. You don't need to know about this, but it's very interesting to sit there and try and balance. Again, if my grip's too tight versus just feeling what it's like. You can actually do that too with the plate on this way too, is just feeling what it's like to do full hand and how awkward it is versus again that strawberry hold. You see how much more I can get out of as I teach my hands to move and rotate that way and do things versus oops in there. Yeah. But I mean, I wanted to spill, but I didn't mean to spill it, but it doesn't take much to look like a complete, but that's not where you want to touch a baby either. And that's where they spit up. And that's where they start, you know, they have internal contractions because just the way that they're being handled. And not to say, ooh, mommy bad again, you know, that kind of thing, but on a sensitive system, it doesn't take much to just do too much to it. Here. So you keep that in your hands, okay? So even when I come here, just so you can feel it, right? Not let me do all the work. So can you feel the violence, the momentum, I should say, right? And you can hear it too, but even without it. And even like this, if you go too fast or that kind of thing, there's momentum that you have to counter as well as you're influencing the system. But if you're in here, feel the difference? Do you see how this bottle just exists in your hands? So you can bring it, come here, no, hold on. Go where we were. See how you can bring it to sitting? And come back down. And you can go pretty fast.
Yeah, it's different.
But
you're right, it's really different.
Does that make more sense? But you don't want to hear where you hear that slosh or. And this makes more sense too, where I was talking about with the baby, with the head position being down like that on the chest. You know, they're just learning a different sensation in their vestibular. Does that make more sense to you guys? Now you can get fancy, you can do hand over hand this way, you can start doing, once you get good at it, but I want you to just really to understand how your touch affects someone else's vestibular system.
But, you know, at the end of the day, when you're
Like a rubber chicken.
Like gummy, yeah. So when you know, like in Feldenkrais, what we learn is that you counterbalance, or you know, you use your back to lift your head. You know, rather than use your neck to lift your head, you use the floor. You know,
That's adult. When you're dealing with a baby, the baby is there to respond to a stimulus.
Okay.
So if your stimulus is,
right,
or like I get it a lot too, more so in India.
Yeah, what?
What the heck? And when they're in my face too, I'm like, you need to stop that. But they want the child to perform for me. Or I'll see this. This is my baby tracking, and I'm like, can you slow down on the dust feather? You know what I mean? But they want to show that their child's capable again, because so.
But I mean, like, so I guess if you were to something like that.
But look at how you stop the movement.
Yeah, it does.
Do that to the bottle. But try and lift from behind.
Also true in adults too, though.
Correct. But if I use the rotation, so if I'm here, see, I'm stopping the movement. But if I rotate, so again, I touch more as if a function's about to happen.
Yeah, that's right. You rarely, there's no way you can reach with one side without coming up more.
Right.
On one side.
Now, if I see a baby starting to, hopefully we'll have examples of that, what I call skipping stones, where that pelvis wants to go like this, it doesn't want to go to the table, then yes, you need to sit there and let it learn what it's like to apply pressure into the floor. But to do it from here,
No.
this is not a move a baby would do. I get it, I can lay down.
Stone things again. I'm sorry, maybe that's not what you're doing.
Sophie, you'll see it. Okay, like when they're on all fours, right?
Yeah.
So a baby, let's see if I can do baby move. So baby should be able to do this,
Yeah.
right, onto their knees. And they're there. And the first time they kind of do it, they're like, ooh, this is interesting. Yeah, make sure it's a good butt shot, Holly.
Yeah, that was a good one.
So what you see a lot is, I call it a skipping stone. So the child doesn't know that it can present over onto this knee, right? So, or you'll see this.
I've seen that.
And then they'll face plant, because at this point, again, I'm not meant to be planking.
Yeah.
I can plank as an adult. I can do all of this to sit there and do. That's again, I look like I'm going to the gym, right? But if I get to this point, to a certain point, that baby's just, and that's where you see Sophie go down, kind of thing. Because that's what that's telling me. It's not that the hands aren't capable. She's now putting way too much momentum into a place in her arms she's not meant to go. Now in this position too, that's where you get the rotation. And the rotation, there should be a nice neutral, almost like an ice skating. And that's also what you're not seeing of Sophie. Right? She doesn't have that neutral going to both positions. And so also what you see her is this. But see, in this position, she should be able to side sit, and play the beads. Now she's kind of trying it with one arm, and at least now she's up with her arms. But this is what's starting to happen, but here she should be able to have that kind of, not necessarily control, I'm not saying she's never going to, but that again. So I was happy that she kind of did that to one side, but she was doing it more here. So here, see how that trochanter gets stuck? Versus here, again, where that neutral is.
Okay.
So what babies do if they're lying down and they're trying to sit up, skipping stones, right? Because the pelvis isn't going into the floor to bring
So
it up.
that's what you're trying to show with this.
Right.
You're giving this
Right, so if you're right here, and counter showing that the pelvic tilt to bringing the baby up. But a baby would never do this. That's CP. And I get it. We've had ATMs where we do this kind of stuff. Right? And do this. It's not a baby move.
Though, really.
But it's not a baby move. Yeah, it's not functional.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's like. But again, it's not neutral.
Right.
So if I can get you to, like Bruce Lee says, be like water. Water can be a wall and it can be stiff, it can be hard, but at the same time, the more fluid you are. So if I'm here with the baby even, again, it's part of my system. I can totally, and this is just a nice mom just curling up with her child, you know, and I can totally. Again, if the child rotates and I'm right here, and that's where you see the moms going, you make that look so effortlessly, because they are. The baby's in sync with them and this and this and everything's working out just fine. I can go like this, and then I can bring them back up again. But a lot of people are more like, okay, what was that? All right, so I'm here, and oh, no, you need to come here. Now, how do I do that? Oh, I'll just... and they're just trying to either do the multitasking, but they're already awkward and you know, and all the bottle, and even the bottle, just having this and trying to, you go like that versus, that's why I suggested with Sophie that she start with her actually in sitting, at least for that latch, and then bring her into, right? But you see people like, dads, you know, I'm not picking on people, but these are just examples of how is that child supposed to counter that kind of momentum. So when I do something like that, it looks more obvious. But as a practitioner, again, you really want to show, and it's really nice just to do the bowl of water, to show somebody so that it removes them from the child and it removes them from, you know, and make this play. Should be like what a kid does. It should be playful. Touch should be playful. So even if I put this here on the baby, but if I come here, do you know what I mean? So see how that counter happens? See how the momentum, that blue fluid, I don't know if you want to come more on this side, but the blue fluid actually goes, see, the meat of that goes into the pelvis. Do you see that? So that's just a higher weight, and where that would naturally cantilever that body into sitting. Right? But if the baby is doing more this, see how it's never happening, and that's where you'll start seeing a crab walk or those kind of positionings, because their body fluid, they haven't been able to transfer their weight. This comes to a vertical, and so does the child. So a typical baby, this is what I can't do with Madison, you should be able to do this and turn it around, and the head will always come to upright, which I think is that ball in the water kind of trick. You should always see, you know, whereas a non-typical child, you know, after 4 months, you're still going to be, ooh, you know. But I do it now with Omni. You could see me, you know. I can just do like this on 9 and 10 months old, and they're literally just like little people in space. They have such a vestibular, and they immediately can put their hands down. That's another thing, and that comes later on. But a typical child too can sleep anywhere. I can be like this, and just be like, hey, how are you? And you know, kind of like this, and like just a nice hold. And now, if that's all the child prefers, again, this is when you got a problem. My child will always sleep in this position, or I did the same thing. The clanking of dishes, Gordon would wake up in 3 seconds. I could not do dishes or clean whatsoever when he was sleeping. And my mom would be like, which again, I didn't know better. It's your house, you should, I'm like, listen, 2-hour nap or me cleaning, this child is sleeping because the child needs a nap. But he could not transition well. He just was not that kind of kid. And I think he only finally learned it about 1.5 years ago. And he's 16. But he was not, and he's still, you know, both my kids kind of have to tell him ahead of time what's going on. But you see it here with kids all the time. I'll look up and see that it's like 10 of, and I don't see anything like the parents saying, so we're almost done here, or whatever, and I'll start giving them a cue, because I know even for the siblings that are out running or playing with trains, because I have a toy store here, if I suddenly say, okay, we're done, train's away, you know what I mean, the transition hasn't happened, and they're into it. So I don't know, again, if you want to take Madison now and here, and just, again, if you want to play with this or this, to feel that.
You're right, it really does go more gradually if you do one side than the other. You have to do that.
But see how it counters automatically. And I think that's why bones also have the holes in them and so forth, because they create little natural levers, in a sense, within the human body versus people that have issues with bone density. Like people with osteoporosis have worse problem with balance, but if you actually look at their bone structure, it's really starting to deteriorate. It doesn't have the caverns that it does, you know, and again, you're dealing with pockets of air, it changes the momentum, and they start to startle more. You know, do babies with higher blood sugar, in a sense, do they move worse because the sugar weighs more than blood does? All of these things that maybe you and I wouldn't notice, but I don't know, do any of you deal with hypertension on a chronic level?
I do so.
But do you know, have you ever had situations where your blood starts boiling in a sense, whatever? I don't know how people live like that on a full-time basis.
Yeah.
You get desensitized.
But that's pretty bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's like how.
I'm saying that there are times that, especially when your balance starts to go, your hypertension's going to increase. That's a natural phenomenon. But I'm saying for the people that have no idea, I was once watching Dr. Oz, and I never watched this guy, so I don't remember where this one is, and he made everyone take their blood pressure, and someone was like at 250. Wow. And he was like, I think I have to call 911 kind of thing, and she's like, well, I'm fine. And he's just like, I don't know how you're like a heart
Used to, that's what they are.
To be used to a 250, you have to have neurological issues.
Yeah, you do.
Well,
But
the nerves and everything dies. I mean,
Yeah.
everything.
everything's
A lot of that has to do with
acclimated.
diabetes too, because the sugar decreases all your nerves and all of your everything that controls blood sugar and the whole system of the renin, angiotensin, and all of that stuff. Same with PIH, pregnancy-induced hypertension. It breaks down the.
Are you kidding me? I had to do a fasting test also. This was with Graham, so I don't know if this had something to do with it. Now, I didn't know when they were checking my glucose. I went out that morning and had like eggs and pancakes with my mom, and they're like, oh, your sugars are high. I didn't know, but I didn't know until after, so they made me take a 4-hour glucose fast. I dropped down to 42 sugars. And I had to call, I think it was my mom, I'm like, I can't drive, I'm really bad. Do you know what, 35 is a diabetic coma. They almost put me in a coma. And they sent me home with that. They didn't check my sugars and stuff. And so when I get to the doctor's office, he's like, did you feel kind of faint? And I was like, oh my God, I thought I was I was barely conscious, like as far as sound mind. And he goes, oh, you're pretty close to passing out. You're like at a 45. Because they kept saying if you throw up or pass out, you have to do this over again. And I'm like, I'm not going to take this test over again.